Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to Retro Flashback, showcasing gaming's roots for a new generation. So, I got something kind of neat for you guys today, actually. This is a game I've actually had sitting in my hopper for a while that I just never kind of got around to. And I decided, you know what, I've been messing around with that long enough. It's time I give this a shot. So we're taking a look today actually at, well, a relic of the DOS era called SideLine. Most people probably haven't heard of this. I certainly hadn't heard of it either. And it only kind of recently cropped up again late last year. This was a game developed largely by Taiwanese students, actually. And it's really cool. This was, well, it was basically an indie game back when indie games were much more of a niche thing than they are today. And it's a 2D shmup, 2D side-scrolly shmup. And it's actually pretty amazing. So the history behind this, I'll talk about this while this little intro runs, is kind of neat. It came out in 1996. It was by, well, this group of people, most of whom are students, formed a company called EMAG, also known as Electronic Music and Animated Graphics Company Limited. Yeah, seriously. And they managed to put this game out in Asia. It actually didn't do very well, and their company barely survived it. They made 2 more games after this, both of which were really kind of lousy light gun games. But what's interesting is that a small company picked this game up and localized it for Poland. And that's how we got this English version, even though they speak Polish in Poland, but they speak English too, I suppose. And it didn't do very well there either. And after that, it kind of faded into obscurity. It wasn't really seen in the West that often. But a little while ago, basically the game's producer, who I guess either had the rights revert back to him or because pretty much everyone involved in the production of this game no longer exists, they basically went, yeah, I probably own the rights to this. And he said, hey, you guys can have this for free if you distribute it freely and don't make any money off of it, which is pretty amazing. So, yeah, this is out now, and it runs like a top in DOS box, which is how I've got it set up here. And I figured I'd take a look at this. This has been out since late last year, or available since late last year, and I just never got around to configuring DOSBox for it, so let's take a look here. So it's pretty neat. It's a shmup. Plays in some ways like Gradius or R-Type or something like that. Has a little bit of bullet hell in it. Has a little bit more relaxed play in it as well. Just got to get the menu to pop up here. This game, by default, is fully controlled with the keyboard. You can, if you use a utility, you can map a controller into it, but I haven't bothered. So, it's kind of neat. It's got multiple difficulty settings, multiple speed settings, which I thought was pretty cool. You can have different numbers of lives, different numbers of credits, which I really like. The movie is just, you can turn the movies off, which I think is kind of cool. Pardon me. You can also have, this was designed for lower end computers at the time, you can have them play in a reduced window or a full window, and you can change the display graphics quality as well, which is pretty cool. It is also a 2-player game if you want. Never tried the 2-player mode. I'm just gonna, it's local 2-player, obviously. I'm just gonna play it in 1-player. And you kind of saw the tutorial there. So this is going to play the intro again, which we've already seen, so we're going to skip past that. But yeah, it's kind of a bummer that this game actually didn't come out in North America, because it's a pretty decent shmup, actually. It's not super punishing, it's not super manic. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's definitely not... it's not like some of the treasure games or something of that nature. Nothing against those, I love those games too, but... this is a little bit more straightforward. And, well, to be honest with you, I mean, shmups did exist on the PC back in the DOS era, but they weren't super common. They were principally a staple of the consoles, to be honest with you. And we had our handfuls of good shmups like Tyrion and Raptor and some other ones like that, which I do intend to cover at some point. But not a lot in this way. In this regard. This sort of... You can kind of tell that this was Japanese developed, and I'm honestly not sure what it is about some of these Japanese shmups that make them really identifiable, because it is pixel 2D art, which was common in a lot of the Western developed games as well. But I don't know, there's something about this, either the ship design or the way in which some of the pixel art is put together, that you can just tell it's, and I shouldn't say Japanese, this was not developed in Japan, it's most shmups were, but this was developed in Taiwan, but definitely you can tell it's sort of the Asian influences, I guess, in it, and I don't say that pejoratively, I think that's a good thing. Oh jeez, I screwed that up. Oh, no, I made it with the shield, okay. But you could tell it had that sort of unique style to it. So you're getting kind of the basics here. It plays a lot, you know, towards the formula of a lot of shmups you might know. You pick up a lot of power-ups, you can pick up different weapons, you can pick up little options that fly around your ship. One of the things that is cool, there's only 3 principal buttons in this. You've got your fire button, but you can see how my options are sort of moving around here a little bit. So there is an independent... There is an independent button that allows you to change your option behavior. There's also a bomb button, which I'm going to use just to get through this guy. So your options, you can have them either fly in front of you, behind you, you can have them spin around you, which is kind of neat. Sort of reduces their overall effectiveness, but gives you a wide spectrum of fire coverage, which I really, really like. That's a shield power up there that I picked up, which is very, very useful. And, of course, you just got, if you need it, then they're limited, of course, but if you need them, you just got your high-end bomb device, which will not necessarily clear the screen every time, but it definitely will, even with the higher-end enemies, will severely weaken them. So I picked up an option here, so you can see how the behavior is changing as I hit the button, which is pretty cool. I really like that. Being able to have that sort of granular control over your options is very neat. A lot of games had options, but they were just kind of there, and they either did what the game wanted, or you could set them to, when you were picking your, oh geez, when you were picking your layout, you could set them to do certain things. This is a really bad spot I'm in here, but I'm hurting them at least. Oh god. I haven't actually played this game very much, so, alright, let's just continue this. But that you could individually sort of customize their behavior on the fly is really a really nice touch. I really like that. And yeah, it's you know, for a game that was made by a group of people who who'd apparently never actually developed and released a video game before, that's the story behind eMag anyway. I gotta say, as someone who played a lot of DOS games and played, oh, this guy's brutal, and played, you know, whatever shmups I could get my hands on PC. This is... Pretend that didn't happen. This is really nicely made. The art is really, really nice. It actually still holds up pretty well, even to this day, as 2D artwork goes. I think this is really good. I'm just going to bomb my way past this guy, because I want to... And I should mention, by the way, that I am playing on easy. So, you can imagine how much harder this ends up getting. But the art holds up well, it looks good. The music for sort of 16-bit sound card type stuff. Ooh, more cinematics. eMag definitely like their ray-traced animations. Again, for an independent game in the mid-90s, like, this is pretty impressive stuff. Like, this looks utterly primitive today, but back then this was pretty hot. Alright, let's fire up the next level here. Yeah, the music is really, really good. It sounds like it's well, I'm not playing this off a CD, so I'm going to assume that this isn't a CD soundtrack, though it might be, because you actually have to have the image for the CD-ROM mounted in DOSBox in order for it to work. So it might be CD music. It might also be tracker music, like Mod or S3M or something of that nature. But in any event, the music sounds really good. The art holds up. The controls are pretty tight and responsive, considering that I'm playing straight off the keyboard. The difficulty is definitely there if you want it. I mean, like I said, I'm playing on easy, and this game is stepping on my throat for the most part. I actually really like the scoring system as well. I mean, shmups are all about the score attack, so you know, a good scoring system is really key if you're going to play a shmup game, and I like what they've got here. So it's got the sort of progressive scoring system where you not only get points for killing enemies, but you actually get, you actually get points for hurting them as well. So as you can see there, as I hit guys, the points are going up sort of in small increments, and then they go up in larger increments when guys are actually destroyed. I like that because it really encourages you to attack enemies in certain patterns, and if you're fighting for score, you want to make sure that you don't do things like use your bombs too often, or potentially even use higher-end weapons. You might even want to try to play the game with lower-end weapons, because the more hits you get in, the more points you get. So if you're playing purely for score, it gives you a lot of different options. A lot of shmups really neglect that. Some of them have okay score systems, but they're very, very generic and don't really have much variety in them, and don't encourage you to play in a potentially less than optimal configuration by giving you scoring incentives to do so. And this really, really does, which I think is really, really excellent. And this is a game that could definitely keep you coming back. Like, you're not going to blow through this in one sitting. It's not one of those sort of easy, what a lot of people would call baby shmups, where you can kind of credit feed your way through it, or, you know, it's so easy that, or if you turn it down to the lower setting, that you'll sort of blow through it just by holding the fire button and not doing much else. It's definitely a challenge. But it feels really, really well designed, and it feels like this would be a good shmup from anybody, but it's a shmup that was made by a first-time developer, made up largely of students, and if that's true, that's pretty damn amazing, I have to say. It's really, really to be lauded and respected. I definitely can understand why the free release of this game, at least within the shmup community, was considered kind of a big deal. You know, this got a little bit of fanfare when it was released for free. I mean, people had it out there. Oh, bummer. Can I clear that out? Okay, there we go. You know what? I'm going to try turning this up to a higher end difficulty just for the hell of it and see how it is. But yeah, this actually came out with a little bit of fanfare from the shmups.com community and some other places like that, which I totally understand. Like, this is a real hidden gem, and I'm really happy that it's out there because, well, not a lot of people got to play it back in the day, and this was really, really hard to get your hands on if you... I'm just going to make sure. There we go. I think that saves the options. This would have been really, really hard to get your hands on, especially legitimately, before it came out that way. And I really like it. Like, I think I might actually sit down and finish this game because it's really, really excellent. If you want to get it set up yourself, it is available for free. I'll put a link to the site's kind of hard to describe the address for, so I'll put a link in the description below this video so that you guys can go and get it. The download is there, in addition to setup instructions. Unfortunately, this has not been packaged up as a standalone installer, so you can't just, like, you know, double-click setup.exe and have it all ready to rock and roll. There is a little bit of a legwork involved. If you're familiar with DOSBox at all, or have done anything with emulators, really, then it should be pretty trivial to you. But if that kind of stuff intimidates you, I mean, the guy does provide instructions there. It's still not necessarily the simplest thing in the world. I could make a standalone package for this game myself without too much trouble. I don't want to do that, though, because I don't want to step on the toes of the guy who has been distributing this, you know, sort of at his own expense. That's not really fair to him. But if you do want to try to set this up yourself and are having any trouble with his instructions or anything like that, I had a couple of little extra steps that I personally had to do to get this working. Just drop a comment under this video. I'll be happy to, if anybody's trying to set this up and is having trouble getting it to work, I'll be happy to help you out. It took me about 40 minutes of messing about with it to get it working, and once that's done, you can actually just create a shortcut that runs DOSBox with all the appropriate settings, and even with the commands to auto-launch the game and everything. So once it's set up, you can literally just double-click a shortcut, and you're off and running. So it's pretty straightforward for the most part. I'm actually doing, oddly enough, much better on a higher difficulty, assuming it actually saved the difficulty, which maybe it didn't. I tell you what, too, Emag set a pretty tough default high score in this game as well to beat. Some games have a pre-programmed high score that's either they don't have a pre-programmed high score, so you sort of beat it by default, or it's somewhat low and trivial to beat. 200,000 points, if you haven't had practice with this game, if you have had practice, I'm sure that's not too hard, but if you haven't had some practice, beating 200,000 points, especially on a higher difficulty, definitely not the easiest thing in the world. But I seem to be doing okay here. I'm going to have to check and see if it actually saved the default high score, or the default, the normal difficulty setting, because I seem to be stepping on this compared to when I was playing on easy, which doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. I seem to be loaded up on power-ups here. Let's just see if I can blast my way through this guy. Maybe I can crack 200k. That would be pretty great. Oh, maybe not. Bugger. Well, I got some weapon power-ups at least again. That's not so bad. So you know what? I really like this, and I mean, it's free, so you can kind of try it out yourself regardless, but if this game came out on Good Old Games for money, I would absolutely say that people should pay for it. In fact, it's too bad that the rights to this game are kind of, I guess, still in a state of flux, because I really do feel that this game still holds up very well, especially considering it was for all intents and purposes, bugger. Especially considering the fact that it was, for all intents and purposes, an amateur project when it came out, and it would have been really nice to see someone sort of getting rewarded for this, because this was really quality work. There we go. Yeah, it's a really, really quality product, and it is a little bit of a bummer that someone's not getting financially rewarded for it anymore, because they really, really should. It's good. I mean, the stages are interesting and unique. The graphics look pretty good. The music is good. Sound effects are a little generic, but, you know, sound effects in shmups tend to be in a lot of ways. I really like the weapon variety as well. I actually didn't touch on that before, but there is, as you've sort of been seeing here, quite a wide variety of weapons available. The fact that you can actually do some alterations on your option behavior is really, really cool as well. I think that's really slick. I don't think I'm going to beat the 200k here, but maybe I could get halfway. That would be nice. Can I? Yeah, I can. All right. Given that I haven't played this much before I started recording, and now I'm playing it while recording, I'm going to give myself the benefit of the doubt that maybe I could improve on this a little bit. But yeah, I keep repeating myself, but this is really an excellent shmup. It's, you know, if your preferred shmup variety is bullet hell only, well, maybe this is a little too light fare for you, but I find it strikes a nice balance. It's definitely not casual, but it isn't full bullet hell. And while I have a lot of respect for bullet hell shmups and those that are good at them, I don't like games that focus on that exclusively, because I just find that's brutally hard for the sake of it. And some people dig that. I don't fault that at all. It's just not my scene. But I like stuff like this that is a sort of a mix of the two. And you can definitely see the inspiration of titles like Gradius and R-Type, but it doesn't directly ape the mechanics of either of those. It kind of takes certain neat elements from each one without just saying, yeah, we're just going to totally lift this mechanic and put it into our game, because I wouldn't even necessarily fault it for doing that. I think more games that do that style that can be done well by other designers is a cool thing too, but they kind of did their own spin, which I really, really like. And, oh, hey, I cracked 200k, I didn't even notice. There's no way this is playing on normal. Either that or I just found my vibe somehow, I don't know. That's pretty amazing. I think I'm going to play this until I can get through to it. See what we can do here. But I really, really like this. I think this is cool, and I think for the price of free... Oops. Well, I just called in the second player. That's going to be hysterical. I don't even know what the keys are, not to mention, yeah, aside from not having a second player here, I don't even know what the two-player buttons are, so that's, oh dear. Sorry, your sacrifice will not be in vain. And by that, I mean it absolutely will be. I blew that. And there he goes. Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. So... I think you should, if you're into shmups at all, you should definitely go grab this, because this is truly a hidden gem, and, well, it's, frankly, not something we saw a lot of in the DOS era, and I'll take my DOS shmups whenever I can get them, and if they're good ones, that's even better. So, yeah, the game is SideLine, published and developed in 1996 by Electronic Music and Animated Graphics Company Limited, also known as EMAG for MS-DOS. It is free right now under a project called SideLine Resurrected. There is a link in the description below this video to go pick it up. As I said, there's instructions there for getting DOSBox set up with it, but if you have any problems, feel free to leave a comment and I'll be happy to help you guys out. But definitely check this out. This is a fantastic shmup. My name's been Parallax Abstraction. Thank you guys all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.